how sweet life can be. Leaves fell above Jack, settling down on his boots as he placed another log onto the post to nail in. The muscles in his hands felt tight from the cold autumn air, and he swore to himself that after this last one, he'd finally sit on the porch and enjoy his coffee. The thought alone comforted him, bringing a small smile as he focused on hammering the last 2 nails. Suddenly, a sharp, terrified neigh pierced the air. "Shadow?" Jack exclaimed, his heart racing. "Shadow!" He dropped everything, nails, hammer, and log, and sprinted across the acreage across the pasture, his mind filled with hundreds of questions. Was Oatmeal all right? Where were they? What is happening? He never heard Shadow like that before. Fear clawed at him as he raced over on uneven ground, his boots sinking in. Reaching the pasture, he froze. A woman stood, cowering behind Shadow, the large black Frisian rearing up and stomping toward a coyote that had somehow sneaked in. Jack's heart pounded. The woman, wild-eyed, frantically scanned her surroundings, her long, dark hair falling over her shoulders. Before Jack could react, a woman snatched up a fallen branch and struck the ground beside the coyote. "Gone! Get out of here! You ain't wanted!" she screamed, swinging the branch like a mad woman. Jack jumped in, shouting too. "Gone! Get out now! Get!" Jack bellowed, waving his arms, trying to make himself look bigger, more intimidating. That coyote tucked its tail between its legs and scurried off, yipping in defeat. As the dust settled, Shadow nervously pawed at the ground, his muscles tense. Jack cautiously approached, whispering softly to calm him. "Shh. There now, boy. It's all right. You're okay now." The woman let out a breath, still staring at the retreating coyote. "You know I might come back," she said, panting. Jack turned to her, breathless himself. "I know, but, what are you doing here?" Briar adjusted her grip on the large branch, awkwardly letting it drop to the ground as she spoke. I was passing through when I saw your horse down the hill, the light one." She pointed towards Oatmeal, who now cautiously made her way upside the hill. "She was being chased by the coyote. I couldn't just stand by, so I came to help. I saw your big fella here when he ran up to protect her." Jack nodded, relieved to see both horses were unharmed. "Are you all right?" His gaze lingered on her, taking in her wild appearance. Dark, tousled hair, her face flushed from the effort, and a strong stance. Despite the rough moment, she was striking. She started to turn away, but Jack reached out. "Wait, are you all right?" "Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Just wasn't expecting to go toe-to-toe with a coyote today," she said, awkwardly laughing as she brushed a strand out of her face. She started to turn away, and Jack reached out. My name's Jack." She paused, then offered a tentative smile as she shook his hand. "Briar." "Thanks for saving my horses," Jack said, his grip firm but friendly. He noticed how her hands felt strong too, and soft. "I appreciate it." "No skin off my nose," Briar replied with a shrug, "but I should get going." The sun was setting by the time Jack returned to his porch. He switched on his coffee maker. The day's work still loomed ahead, but as he sat, his hands warming near the fireplace, his mind wandered back to Briar. She was interesting, that much he could tell. Strong, resourceful, and a little wild. He wasn't sure if she was passing through or if she lived nearby, but he had a feeling that this wouldn't be the last time he'd seen her. The next day, as the sun peeked through the trees, he found himself scanning the horizon, wondering if she'd come by again. He saddled up Shadow, now calm and happy, and took a ride into the woods, where he stumbled upon a small cabin nestled in the trees. He'd seen it before, Mr. Carter's place, but a familiar figure was out front, chopping wood. "Briar?" Jack called out. She turned, surprised, but not displeased to see him. "What are you doing out here? You ain't stalking me, are you?" "No. Happy coincidence, I think. I guess we're neighbors?" "Neighbors indeed." "I'm glad I caught you," he smiled as he dismounted. "I wanted to make sure you were all right after yesterday. That coyote might have spooked you more than you let on." Briar wiped her brow and grinned. "It takes more than that to scare me." Over the next few weeks, Jack and Briar began to see each other more often. Learning she brought her cabin from his old neighbor, he'd wonder when he'd last seen him. That's pretty common out here. Sometimes it was by chance, her walking through the woods, checking on the horses, having them meet her own, named Pearl, or bringing him extra firewood to her cabin. Shared quiet conversations and easy smiles. It's never a dull day finding someone near pasture swinging sticks at a coyote. Sticks? If I remember correctly, it was a branch, and a heavy one at that. They laughed, the soft touch of their shoulders enough to make their hearts race. Over the few following days, Jack found himself stopping by Briar's cabin more often. At first, it was under the guise of bringing firewood, checking on Shadow and oatmeal. Had she eaten tea, coffee? But soon it became clear that he was drawn to her company. Briar had a bluntness about her that Jack admired. He wasn't afraid to speak her mind, and if something was wrong, she said so. If something made her laugh, she didn't hold back. Jack appreciated the honesty. So many people in town danced around their feelings, but Briar was different. She made things simple. One afternoon, Jack arrived to find her sitting on the porch, a pile of canvases and projects scattered beside her. She glanced up as he approached, wiping her hands on her jeans. "You're back," she said, not bothering to hide the pleased surprise in her voice. "Figured I'd see how you were settling in," Jack said, his eyes flicking to the beautiful paintings that sat. "You painted all this?" Briar shrugged. Just a hobby. Something to keep my hands busy when I'm not fixing up the place." Jack walked in closer to a painting, a small, detailed horse sitting on a bright green pasture. "These are impressive." The brush colored Briar's cheeks. She wasn't used to compliments, but Jack's tone was genuine. "Thanks. My mama told me a long time ago. Helps pass the time." Jack nodded. "Your mama definitely knows how to make a work of art." Her face flushed as he took a peek at her. It's a great skill to have, to know how to make things with your hands. They fell into sweet conversation, talking about their shared experiences growing up with hands in dirt and tools and grip. Jack liked that Briar wasn't just tough, she had depth. She knew the value of hard work or building things with her hands, just like he did. Briar found herself looking forward to Jack's visits. Unlike others she'd known, Jack never talked down to her or treated her like she didn't belong in the woods. He didn't ask why she chose to live alone or pry into her past. He just accepted her for who she was. And there was something deeply comforting in that. One chilly afternoon, as the first hint of winter crept into the air, Jack and Briar were repairing a section of fence near the pasture. The work was quiet, both of them focused on their task, but there was an unspoken ease between them. "Do you ever miss the noise?" Briar asked, breaking the silence as she hammered a nail into the post. Jack paused, glancing at her. What do you mean?" "Town, people, that kind of noise." She didn't meet his eyes, her focus still on the fence. Jack thought for a moment. "Sometimes, but mostly I like the quiet. Always makes it hard to think, hard to see, hard to live." Briar nodded. "Yeah, I feel the same." That was what they shared most. The understanding that silence didn't have to be uncomfortable. They were both the kind of people that valued solitude, but also the kind who didn't mind sharing that solitude with someone who understood. Jack glanced at Briar as she worked, knowing how steady her hands were, how focused she became on even the smallest tasks. She didn't shy away from hard work or try to impress him. She was just herself, and that was enough. For Briar, Jack's presence was like an anchor. It wasn't flashy or loud like some of the cowboys she'd met before, but his quiet strength reassured her. When he spoke, it was because he had something worth saying. She admired him, the way he cared for his horses, fixed things, did favors without the asking, and he never looked at her like she was out of place. One evening, after another long day of work, Jack stayed a little longer than usual. They sat on Briar's porch, a comfortable silence stretching between them, as the sky darkened and the stars began to peek through. "You ever think about leaving this place?" Low, almost like he didn't want to break the stillness. Briar shook her head. "No. I chose this spot. It's quiet, but it's got everything I need. For me, for Pearl. Besides," she glanced at him, a rare, pretty, bright smile playing upon her lips. "The company's not too bad either." Jack chuckled, looking down at his hands before meeting her eyes. There was something unspoken between them now, something that they'd been building over the weeks. They just weren't neighbors anymore. Briar was the first to break the silence. "I've gotten used to seeing you around, you know." Jack smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest. "Funny, I was thinking the same thing." Later that night, as Jack prepared to leave, Briar walked him out to the gate. They lingered there, neither one really wanting to say goodnight. Before he could stop himself, Jack reached out and gently took her hand. Briar looked up at him, surprised but not pulling away. For a moment, they just stood there, the crisp air wrapping around them. "Briar," Jack started, his voice quiet but steady. But he didn't need to finish. Briar stepped closer, her hand still in his, and in the soft glow of the porch light, they shared a soft, tender kiss. When they pulled away, Briar smirked. "Took you long enough," she teased. Jack laughed, relief and happiness flooding him. Yeah, well, you're a hard one to figure out. Briar squeezed his hand. Maybe, but you've done all right so far. Thank you for listening to my short story. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this from Into the Forest with me. Thank you.